Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And thank you all for being engaged. It means so much. Being a Democrat has been difficult maybe for the last year. Nonetheless, we've endured and we're on an upswing. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my race, a little bit about me. So first thing people ask when they talk to me, they say, why are you running for Attorney General? So it's really simple. It's because I want to serve the people of Texas. I've spent my life serving, and I want to continue that service. I want to be a voice for the people who did not have a voice. So I'll go on specifically about my background later, but I remember, and I want to, the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Texas. It is everyone's lawyer. And I remember when I'm a soldier, I spent more than 20 years in the Army.
All right, thank you for your service.
Of course, it was an honor. I served in Iraq, and I took care of soldiers, and there were many, many, many legal problems. And they didn't know that they had attorney-client privilege with me. And so I would always lead with, I am your lawyer. You don't have to worry about the chain of command. You don't have to worry about anyone finding out about this particular situation that you're in. You can trust me, and your trust will never be broken. And that's what I bring to the table here. So a little bit about me and how I got here. So when I was 16 years old, I worked at a grocery store. And one of the responsibilities, or one of the things that they asked me to do was to go out to people's car, help them with their groceries. I went out with a lady, I helped her with her groceries, we were putting the bags in the car, and in the process someone came and snatched her purse. When they went away, I took off after them. I was at high school, I was an athlete, I was a football player, and I was athletic. And I just, by instinct, I ran after the guy. I ran after him, I tackled him. And in the process of rolling around on the ground, he put out a gun, stuck it right in my stomach, and he shot me. And so he ran away. And as I lay in a pool of blood, I was eventually taken to the hospital and went through a period of recovery. And in that period of recovery, I was young, but nonetheless, I thought hard and seriously about what I wanted to do with my life. And I decided then and there that I was very grateful to be alive. I was blessed beyond measure, and I wanted to live a life of service. And that's what I've done, and that's what I wish to continue to do. So after college, I was 16 years old then, 18 years old, I went to college. I immediately joined the ROTC. A few months later, I joined the Army Reserves. I stayed in the Army Reserves for over 2 decades. I actually have 2 periods of military service. I stayed in the Army Reserve for a long period of time, and then I had a 13-year break in service, and then at roughly around 40 years old, I got an age waiver, I got off the couch, I got myself in really good shape, and I went back in the Army. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I went into the Army, served, I was a tank commander. So I commanded my own tank, and then I commanded a group of tanks, 16 tanks in total, over the course of my enlistment. I came out, and a short time later, after a short break, I went into the FBI. I was a special agent in FBI for 9 years. Wonderful honor. I went all over the world. I served all kinds of missions. I was on a SWAT team. After 9/11, I went to New York, and it was not easy. And so, even to this day, FBI headquarters has a wall of honor, and numerous people on that wall of honor were people just like me who went to 9/11, who sucked up toxic fumes, who eventually succumbed to their illnesses. And so that was a problem. And I did so much for the FBI. I'm thankful that I had that opportunity, but I wasn't done serving. I served in Congress, not in Congress, but as a staffer in Congress. And then later I became a federal prosecutor. I prosecuted over 100 cases. I prosecuted violent crimes. I prosecuted kidnapping. I prosecuted white-collar crimes, fraud cases that you would not believe. And toward the end of my prosecutorial career, I prosecuted tax cases and became a tax specialist. I earned an advanced law degree in taxation and eventually went to private practice. And so, that's my military, that's my government bona fides. I have served my entire life. Even my periods of service had periods of service. When I was in the Army the first time, it was the early 90s and Hurricane Andrew came. We're not in the field. We spent most of our time in the field, but we're not in the field. So I took 2.5 weeks to go work for the Red Cross to pass out food and do whatever they asked me to do. And it goes on in the FBI. And all of that was, I wasn't looking for accolades. I wasn't looking for anything but an opportunity to serve others. And so when people ask me, what motivated you to get in this race? It's because I want to serve. I think that is the highest and best use of what I have to give. So people ask me, what distinguishes you? Well, let me back up. So you juxtapose my background, my government background, my service background, with what we have in Austin right now, the Attorney General, Ken Paxton. And so every single person knows about Ken Paxton and knows about his corruption. I could go on for hours and hours and hours about Ken Paxton's corruption. But I don't need to, because you all know it. I was in Washington, D.C. at an event, and a gentleman from UK stopped me to tell me about Ken Paxton and his corruption. His corruption is known internationally. And so what I want to do is I want to bring integrity back to that office. I want a sense, people to be proud of the Attorney General of Texas. It is an incredibly important job with all kind of power and responsibilities. I'm not power drunk. I am not a career politician. I've never even run for student council before. This is my very first political race, and I'm proud about it. And so I want to serve the people of Texas. So, kind of what distinguishes me from others. I say I wasn't a career politician. I'm not, and never will be a career politician. I got started too late, and that's not my desire anyway. I want to do good work, and then I want to, leave it to the next person to continue that work. And so, what do you want to do, Tony, as Attorney General of Texas? There's a lot of things I want to do, especially after this administration, especially after many, many years of Ken Paxton and his cronies. So a few of them, just a few, is I want to do a top to bottom review of everything that Ken Paxton has done. I mean, I will tell you, he is prolific in terms of frivolous lawsuits, political lawsuits, unconstitutional actions. And so when I become Attorney General, I'm so honored by the voters of Texas, I'm going to do a top to bottom review of every single action taken by Ken Paxton. And the actions that are not justified, they're getting discarded. The unconstitutional lawsuits and defending, crazy statutes, the statutes that's recently struck down by the appellate court. Even before that happened, I was on record for saying that is an unconstitutional gerrymander that it considered race. And the Supreme Court has said that you cannot do that. I don't know where they're going to come down now, but I know that it was unconstitutional. And so that's just one item. I want to look at one of the primary responsibilities of the Attorney General of Texas is consumer protection. And so when I had a young family, we didn't have a lot of money. I'll just tell you a little story. We didn't have a lot of money, but we bought furniture from a company that came highly recommended from my peers at my job. And their furniture took our deposit, and shortly thereafter went out of business. And we lost all of our money. And it was a lot. It was a lot to us. And so who got that money back for us? The Attorney General got that money back for us. He fought, he sued that company, and every single dime came back to us. And it meant a lot. And so that's one story, that's one individual that I remember decades later. Compound that by the millions of people who are not being protected. Ken Paxton has a huge legal staff, but they're not protecting the people. They're not engaging in consumer protection. They're suing anybody and everybody. They're defending. There's a lawsuit, RNC, Republican National Party, against the Secretary of State. Ken Paxton's responsibility is to defend the Secretary of State. You know who he defended in a lawsuit? He defended the RNC against the state of Texas. And the Secretary of State had to go get private attorneys. It makes no sense. Really, it's about himself, his rich cronies, and his party. It is not about the people. So I spent my life, prosecuting FBI agent, protecting others, And even in my current legal practice, I'm protecting others who have been defrauded. And so I bring a very significant amount of experience, knowledge to that task. And we're going to build that consumer protection department, which is there and which actually does some consumer protection. They sue big, large tech companies, which is good. But they don't spend nearly a fraction of what they did that they should spend on actual consumer protection. There's not a person in this room that either hasn't been a victim or knows someone that's been a victim of some sort of fraud. And you need an agency to go to. Right now, in this administration, and I know this because I was in the federal government and my buddies are there, my federal prosecutors and FBI agents, is essentially withdrawn from enforcement. They have moved on from any kind of fraud enforcement, and they are working immigration and other things that they're working. But I get calls, if not daily, then weekly, of individuals who have lost their life savings or huge amounts of money, and they say, you have relationships in the government, can you help me? I say, I can try. But usually it's difficult. They're busy. One particular week, someone called me, they had lost $3 million. It was their life savings. The gentleman had lost his wife, and he was, talking to someone over the internet and ended up losing $3 million. His entire life savings. Can you imagine how tragic that is? Money that you've worked and saved and thought about that's going to carry you over forever, and you don't have it anymore because someone scammed you. He could not get anyone to take his case and help him. And so just yesterday someone told me they have a fraud situation, and we were not even talking about the Attorney General race. I don't even know if this individual knew that I was running for Attorney General. He says, I cannot get law enforcement to take my case, to be interested in my case. I said, did you call the Attorney General? He said, yes, the Attorney General told me that they only work civil cases and they don't work criminal cases. Well, that's not entirely true. The Attorney General can work criminal cases and does work criminal cases, or should. And I will. And one of my goals is they have a criminal department in an area there, but they don't do this type of work. They tell people they don't have jurisdiction, which is not true. It's not entirely true. They can work those cases, and it's simply a matter of the local DA, district attorney, asking for help, or the Attorney General saying, hey, do you need help? And so I will build up that unit. I will bring a lot of the resources, the expertise, the phenomenal public servants who are out there who are now unemployed. The Department of Justice has lost 5,000 lawyers.
Wow.
They have been shelled out. And so I plan to hire those people, bring them on board. They have decades of experience, and they love this stuff. They don't need any help on day one. They can get up to speed. And so, lastly, I mentioned DAs. DAs are in every single city, district attorneys. I used to work for a DA, and I'm the only person really with any extensive government experience, but has worked in a DA, in this race, that has been a prosecutor, that understands the relationships of a district attorney and law enforcement, how to talk to them, how to speak their language, how to know their acronyms, know what triggers them, know where they need help, understand their plight. And so when I am Attorney General, if I'm blessed to become their next Attorney General, I will build a unit, and all that unit is going to do is interact and liaise and work with and help and assist and be a leader for the district attorney's office. They need it. So the district attorneys are wonderful public servants, but they're always overworked. They have murders, kidnappings, just drug cases, violent crimes, and they are not equipped to handle some of the most sophisticated kidnapping cases, sexual exploitation cases, all kinds of sex crimes. In other cities, the attorney generals, other states, the attorney generals have huge units to do that type of work, to either take over the work for the DAs. The DA says, look, I just don't have the time. So can you guys take it over? Sure, we're happy to. We have a lab, we have a forensic lab, we have a ton of professionals, we have financial analysts, and so on and so forth. And so that's what I want to build for Texas. And I want to help DAs, and I talk to DAs. They are eager. To say that they are not a fan of Ken Paxton is an understatement. And Ken Paxton is not interested in working with these individuals. He's interested in performative politics and doing what he does and moving up to the Senate. And the guy sued everyone under the sun before, but now he's running for the Senate, and it's daily. There's just a drumbeat of lawsuit after lawsuit, frivolous lawsuit after frivolous lawsuit. You know, the recent lawsuit where RFK Jr. was in D.C. saying that Tylenol caused cancer in pregnant women. And he said that, and within 2 days later, Ken Paxton here in Texas was suing Tylenol. First of all, he sued the wrong company. Tylenol had been sold. But within 2 days, what kind of due diligence did he do? You know, what kind of work? And that's another thing. I work in a law firm, and I work in the government, as I said. I know how incredibly expensive and hard it is to be sued and to engage in litigation. Even if you're a big company, you don't want to be sued, and especially you don't want to be sued in an unjustified case. It will cost you millions. It will cost us probably millions to engage in a protracted fight with the government, either with the state government or the federal government. People cannot afford that. When I was in the government, both as an FBI agent and as a prosecutor, we dotted every I and crossed every T to make sure we had the right people. We didn't get into indictments for indictment cases, indictment for indictment's sake, for lawsuits for headlines. Someone is on the end of that lawsuit. It's the state of Texas versus someone. And that someone has to answer that lawsuit. They have to go to court. They have to engage counsel. They have to pay tremendous amounts of money to defend themselves. And even if it's a frivolous lawsuit, it's a ton of money. And you don't get your reputation back. You have been sued by the government. You lose clients. You lose workers. And you oftentimes lose your company. You know, Ken Paxton, I mean, it's a lot of them. But there's lawsuits where he would sue, and then 6 weeks later he dropped the lawsuit. You know, say I got the wrong party, or oh, we found out that this person actually didn't practice medicine in Texas after all. They gave up their license before I sued them. Why would you even sue them in the first place? And related to that, this actually is happening on the federal government. It's a fairly new phenomenon. It's where you issue a press release saying, I'm investigating this company. That is not the way a law enforcement agency works. You do not announce your investigation. You know why? Because it destroys a company. They lose customers. They lose clients. Everyone flees them when they're being subject to an investigation. I wouldn't do that. I've never done that. I've had the opportunity to do that. I literally worked over 100 cases, criminal cases, and I've never once done that, and I never will, and my people won't do that. You engage in an investigation, you do it behind the scenes, you talk to whoever you need to talk to. If the media finds out, then you say, I have no comment, it is an open investigation, and then you proceed to investigate. And you don't wreck a company or an individual, you know, doctors for trying to provide legal care. And you know, one final thing I want to say is that there's a lot of money that people are hurting. I mean, you used to go to the grocery store, spend $80. This is not going to happen anymore. You go to the grocery store, the same amount of stuff you used to buy for $80 is going to cost you $120 or more. And you know, price of eggs have doubled, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of money that we spend on these lawsuits. Tens of millions of dollars that office spends unnecessarily. And there's a lot of money that's left on the table. There's a lot of lawsuits that are not being filed. For example, the federal government has pulled all kind of money, billions of dollars really, out of the state of Texas, and Ken Paxton is sitting on his hands and letting him do it. There are Democratic states, there are states with the Democratic attorney generals who are suing the federal government for recovery of money that was taken from them and getting that money back, but only those states. And so, for example, NIH grants was taken from numerous states. Colorado, Illinois, many of the states with Democratic attorneys generals have sued and have gotten their money back almost immediately. Texas, no. Doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, researchers, unemployed, our rural hospitals closing. it all is terrible. It's billions of dollars. That's real money. That's real money. That's your money that was taken. It was the federal government that could be going to farmers. We've heard a lot about farmers today, and all of us. And it makes no sense. And so I'm here asking for your vote and your support to be the next Attorney General. I am the only candidate in the race who will be ready day one. Day one. And in terms of winning in Texas, so it's a tough state, right? It's a tough state for Democrats. It's been decades since we've won statewide. But one of the things that people often will paint Democrats as, true or untrue, I'm going to say they're weak, woke, and whiny. You can't paint me as that. I've laid it on the line over and over again. I'm not weak, woke, and whiny. And so when people say, hey, you know, look, Tony Box is running for Attorney General and try to use the same old tire lines, I'm going to say, no, that's not true. Look at my record. Look at my record of service. It's a lifetime of service. And so I'm here for you, and I'm here asking for your support. My website is TonyBoxforTexas.com. And thank you very much.